All right, all right. Hello, hello, and welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. This is the Bitcoin Escape Hatch, a Bitcoin only educational channel where the signals, information, and the outcome is financial freedom. This is episode 3 of my Bitcoin 101 series, intended to orange pill the individual. Come and join us on this bright and beautiful orange world. It's your escape hatch to financial freedom, financial sovereignty, and some good times. Yeah, like I said, today, episode 3 in the Bitcoin 101 series, we're talking about supply, demand, halvings, why scarcity drives value, some examples, and a little bit of a history lesson. Anyways, let's get into it. If you watched episode 1, you already feel the pain of endless money printing. Episode 2 showed you exactly what Bitcoin is. We spoke about supply cap a lot, and we're going to keep covering it because it's one of the most important things about Bitcoin and how it's etched into digital stone, cannot be changed, and any changes or any attempts to make changes would be economically suicidal for anyone who attempts it. As always, in each episode, we'll be going a little deeper and talking more about why this invention called Bitcoin is so amazing and why I think it is one of the most important and impactful paradigm shifts we're ever going to see, because it's going to help us take money out of the hands of those who control it and print it endlessly and gives it back to the individual. You're always going to hear me talk about that. I'm always going to encourage the individual to hold Bitcoin in cold storage over anything else. But as always, remember, everybody's allowed to buy Bitcoin, institutions, treasury companies, and so on. Today, we're going to be diving into Bitcoin's economics, how they're built the way it is, and why that design turns it into the most powerful form of money ever created in a world of endless money printing. We're talking about the actual rules that make Bitcoin behave like nothing else on earth, a paradigm shift, as I like to say. Even if you're brand new to this and it all feels overwhelming, stick with me. I hope by the end of one of my videos, you understand why so many people get genuinely excited about Bitcoin's economics and why it's the first form of digital scarcity ever created. First off, Bitcoin has a hard, unbreakable cap. Only 21 million coins will ever exist. We covered this in every episode of the series so far, and today we're just going to cover why it's important and part of its economics, and obviously the halving schedule. That number isn't a goal or a promise. It's pure math locked into the code from day one. No CEO, no government, no marketing team, no committee can ever print more, ever. Now, compare that to the money in your bank account right now. Central banks can and do create trillions of new dollars whenever they feel like it. Just look at what happened between 2020 and 2022, and this is what radicalized me. The US expanded its money supply, which means they printed over 40% of all the money that has ever existed ever in those 2 years. And I hope you realize just how absolutely insane that is. The fastest explosion in modern monetary history ever. 40% of the money that has ever existed they created in 2 years by a couple of keystrokes. It's just madness. It's madness. Anyways, onwards. That new money didn't show up in your paycheck or in your bank account. It went to governments, big banks, big corporations by the Cantillon effect, which we've covered many times before, while your savings quietly lost purchasing power and everybody else who got the money first got richer. That's called debasement. And that's why these dinosaurs don't want something like Bitcoin that takes the power away from them and gives it back to you, right? They love that they can control that money printer. Bitcoin does the exact opposite of that careless and endless money printing. And we know this because anyone like you or me doesn't have to be a big banking executive or government official or even a Bitcoin core developer or even a large Bitcoin holder. Anyone like you and me can verify anything about Bitcoin for yourselves. And one of the things that I wanted to tell you that you can verify is that by the year 2140, the very last tiny fraction of Bitcoin, which is a Satoshi, if you didn't know, will be mined, and that's it. That's when we hit the 21 million cap, and the Bitcoin ecosystem will bootstrap itself and run on its activity alone. And that's forever. 0% new supply after that. And we know that because of its perfectly predictable issuance schedule, right? Fiat has no issuance schedule. We don't know when, but we know they are just going to keep printing and printing. As for Bitcoin, anyone can verify that for themselves, and that's amazing. That's why I love it. This isn't the first time humanity has tried to create scarce money, but it is the first time we succeeded, and that's why it's so amazing. It's the first time we succeeded at making scarcity permanent and unchangeable. For thousands of years, gold and silver worked because they were hard to produce, but rulers always found ways to cheat, and they always do. In the Roman Empire, the silver denarius started as nearly pure silver, but by the end of the 3rd century, emperors were melting coins, mixing it with cheap copper, and stamping the same face on them, debasing the currency until the silver content was below 5%. What followed was prices exploded, trust collapsed, and it helped bring the end of the Western Empire. And to give you a little bit of an example, both the US and Canadian dollars have been debased beyond that, and that is scary. Both currencies have been debased far beyond the Roman Darius's low point, which is 5%, because fiat has no hard limit. Central banks can expand the supply indefinitely, leading to compounded inflation over a century. And this is what actually radicalized me when I first started learning about Bitcoin. When I saw multiple people call something out called the fiat debt spiral. And what this is where the receipts on government debt are so high that the amount of money they collect in taxes doesn't even cover the interest on that debt alone. And when I learned about that, I was just like, this is bananas. Meaning they only have 2 options. Let the entire system crash and burn, or keep printing to infinity. They are trapped. And like I always say, go verify this for yourself. It is so wild. I always tell people, look up the debt clocks of your country and you will be amazed. You'll see a ticking number there that you won't even be able to conceptualize, and it's wild. Like I said, they are trapped. They have 2 options. Either let the debt bubble burst, which would cause a economic collapse of immense scale, or print forever and debase the currency, and that's what they're doing. And this is also why you'll see people in Bitcoin say, Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom, because they will keep printing it until it's worth absolutely nothing. And they keep doing this. Fast forward from the Roman Empire to the 20th century. At the end of World War I, Germany printed to pay their war debts. In 1923, a loaf of bread that cost a few marks would cost billions of marks in 1990 after all that printing. They needed wheelbarrows of cash for their groceries, which we're going to need pretty soon. In Zimbabwe in the 2000s, they printed so much, their inflation hit 79 billion% per month. That is wild. Venezuela today is the same story. Every single time it's the same story. Think of the Cantillon effect, which you've covered many times. And I hate if it sounds like I'm harping on it, but it's important because every time they print money, the people closest to it benefit the most. Just for a second, imagine if you yourself could print money. It's the age-old saying of absolute power corrupts absolutely. They are going to print because they are allowed to print. I'm just going to stop for a second and plug something here real quick. I have no connection to Joe whatsoever, but I absolutely loved the video he produced, which is called What is the Problem? I'm going to link it down below. And it so eloquently and masterfully explains what I was trying to explain there. So go check it out. Give him tons of love, follows, and subscribes. Please do that because it's an amazing video. And it shows exactly why that if people have the power to print, they were going to, because the system and the incentives are broken. The link to that video is going to be below. Please go check it out. Satoshi Nakamoto built Bitcoin so the rules could never be changed the way the Roman emperors or modern central banks change theirs today. Because as we know from history and of today, they can't help it. They're going to find reasons to print. Even like today, the whole Iran thing, like they're always going to find reasons to print, whether it's wars or stimulus, spending bills, budgets. They have no option but to keep the debt spiral going. Imagine if you had a computer in your basement where you could go and add a few zeros to your bank account with just a few keystrokes. Would you? I mean, at some point, if you'd run in some sort of economic troubles, I think everybody would. That is exactly what central banks do. They go to the computer, type in a few zeros, and your money's debased. Anyways, let's continue. The 21 million cap is enforced by math and thousands of independent nodes around the world. We covered that in the last episode. It is the first time in human history that scarcity is immutable, protected not by kings or armies, but by unbreakable code. And that's the way of the future, right? That's why the cap is so important and why I've been talking about it so much. It finally gives regular people like you and me a form of money that can't be quietly stolen through inflation. Your labor, your savings, your children's inheritance can actually hold their value for decades instead of slowly melting away. So why does this actually matter in the face of debasement? I'm going to give you a few metaphors here. Imagine your savings as an ice cube sitting on the kitchen counter, which is the cash in your bank. Every year, the central bank turns up the heat a little bit more in your house. They do this via stimulus, bailouts, wars, budgets, all that other stuff. Any reason they can find to print money. And what that does is it slowly melts your ice cube. The same number of dollars buys less and less, which is the debasement. I also like to think of it like this. Say you made the perfect Kool-Aid drink. The ratio of Kool-Aid mixture and water is perfect, and it tastes amazing. Now, imagine that perfectly mixed Kool-Aid is your purchasing power. It's the amount of goods you can buy with that money. Now, imagine somebody comes along and pours in 2% more water into your drink every month. You didn't ask for it, it just shows up, and you have no way of stopping it. That's 2% inflation this month, and then 2% next month, and then it compounds and it compounds. Slowly but surely over the years, that perfect mixture will start to taste very bland and more like water than Kool-Aid. This is what they do every single month, and it's built into the system, and they act like it's normal, but it is not. This is still a dilution of your purchasing power because, like I said, inflation compounds. All right, next one up. Imagine your savings is the perfect diamond locked in a vault that no one except for you can access, which is your Bitcoin in cold storage. That vault door is sealed with math. Not even the most powerful governments on earth can break it, which I love. The diamond doesn't melt. It doesn't get diluted because one Bitcoin will always be worth one Bitcoin. And as more people in the world realize they need that diamond for savings, for remittances, for hedging inflation, or for passing wealth down to their kids, which is, I think, one of the most important parts of it, the value of each diamond goes up, each Bitcoin, because there are still only 21 million and there only will ever be 21 million. That's how scarcity works. It works in your favor. Fixed supply plus rising demand equals upward pressure on value over time. And I love that. No printing press required, no permission needed, just pure, predictable economics. A really helpful way to see this scarcity in action is something called stock to flow ratio. Now, not the stock to flow model. If you've been out on X and stuff and seen it, I have no opinions about it. I do not talk about price on this channel. Anyway, stock to flow ratio. Stock is the existing supply of an asset. Flow is the new supply added each year. With me? The higher the stock to flow number, the scarcer the asset is, because very little new stuff or amount is coming in compared to what already exists. That scarcity protects value over time. We're going to compare three of them here: gold, Bitcoin, and cash. I added gold in there just because people love to talk about gold when they talk about Bitcoin. Gold, the classic scarce asset. Almost all the gold ever mined in history is still existing here today. New mining only adds a tiny bit each year, which is roughly estimated between 1 and 2%. That's why gold has held value for thousands of years. There's so much already out there, and the new supply is very small compared to the total. We see where I'm going with this? Yeah. Bitcoin, designed to be even more scarce over time. All the Bitcoin that exists today is the stock. New Bitcoin comes from mining rewards, but every 4 years, the halving cuts the new supply in half, the new supply that enters the system. And it keeps halving forever, all the way until 2140. This makes Bitcoin become scarcer and scarcer compared to gold as time goes on. And I put that in there because every few months we seem to hear about them finding a new gold vein, which is worth 3 trillion here in Africa or here in China. And well, we can never verify them. They always just seem to be finding more gold. Anyways, continuing, the new supply slows down dramatically while the total supply grows very slowly. Bitcoin was built on purpose to outscarce gold in the long run. And finally, dollars. The total dollars out there are the stock, but the government and central bank can add huge amounts of new dollars whenever they want. We know that. Hundreds of billions or even trillions in a single year during crises, which sometimes it feels like they create. New supply is massive and unpredictable compared to what already exists. That's why the dollar loses value over time. Endless new money dilutes what you already hold. So let's recap. Gold has a high scarcity. New supply is small compared to what's already out there. Bitcoin is engineered to become even scarcer over time. New supply gets cut in half every 4 years. Fiat, like the dollar, has an endless new supply. They can print as much as they want, so your savings will always be diluted. Remember the debt spiral that I had mentioned before? They have no choice but to print. And I don't like to get political, but there's no side of the aisle that's going to let the entire economy collapse under their watch. So as soon as one side or the other gets control of the money printer, they just fire it up again. Anyways, continuing on. That's why Bitcoin's start to flow design isn't just a number, it's a shield against debasement. Remember, the Genesis block was embedded with the note by Satoshi himself, the chancellor on the brink of second bailout, right? Because they knew at that time they were just going to be printing an insane amount, and Bitcoin is the answer to that. In a world where governments can pour more water into the Kool-Aid whenever they want, Bitcoin is the one asset that never gets watered down. Its scarcity is coded in, enforced by math, and protected by thousands of independent nodes worldwide. No one can cheat the system, not even the people or person who created it. This is the first time in history that regular people have access to money with truly immutable scarcity. Remember, 0 bar to entry. You can go buy Bitcoin today, and no one's going to stop you. Your labor, your savings, your kids' inheritance can actually hold value across generations instead of slowly melting away. Okay, continuing on now, let's talk about the genius mechanism that creates this growth scarcity called the halving. And I'm sure you've all heard about it before. Not going to spend too much time on it. Just going to go over what it is. Every 210,000 blocks, which is roughly every 4 years, the rewards miners get for adding a new block is cut in half, exactly in half. Here's how it works. The code says, start with 50 Bitcoin per block when Bitcoin first started. After 210,000 blocks, about 4 years, drop it to 25, then 12.5, then 6.25, then 3.125, which we're at right now. Then the next one in 2028 will be 1.5625 Bitcoin. And it's kind of crazy to think of that number. The technical beauty is actually very simple. The block reward starts at 50 and halves forever. The total supply is the sum of an infinite geometric series. Okay, I'm going to throw up the equation up there just so you can see what I'm talking about. The total supply is basically this. You take 210,000 blocks times 50 Bitcoin, then you keep having that number forever. So it's 210,000 times 50 times 1/2 raised to the power of n added up from n equals 0 all the way to infinity. When you add it all up forever, it comes out to exactly 21 million Bitcoin. Not about 21 million Bitcoin, exactly 21 million. I love that. I love it when it's exact. The halvings make sure the new supply gets smaller and smaller until it stops. And the math just works. It works out perfectly. Think of it like a faucet that starts wide open, and every 4 years, someone turns the handle a little tighter so the new stream of Bitcoin gets smaller and smaller until one day it's just a tiny drip. Then it stops. And then the network takes over from that. And by that point, I believe Bitcoin would probably already be interplanetary at that point. Each halving is a predictable supply shock. Fewer new coins enter the system at the exact same time that more people and companies and even countries are demanding Bitcoin, joining the system. The river of new supply narrows while more water demand keeps pouring in. Pressure builds, and that's why people get excited every 4 years. The math is working in the favor of holders. Hodl that Bitcoin. And speaking of demand is on the other side of that beautiful equation. People want Bitcoin for very real reasons. And the numbers show it's not just talk. Remember, yes, we live in the Western Hemisphere in North America, and we have a lot of financial privilege. You have access to banking. We can send money, although it's painful sometimes. But think about people who live in other parts of the world who don't have just free access to a banking system like we do, right? And we're going to go over it here. Families in high inflation countries use it as a lifeboat when their local currencies collapse. In Argentina, just last year, in 2025, inflation hit 80%. Imagine if you hit 80% in your country. Crypto ownership surged to 23 to 30% of the population. Many use Bitcoin or stable coins to protect savings or send money home. In Venezuela, 16 to 19% of households rely on crypto, although I hate saying crypto, mostly Bitcoin and USDT, for daily survival and remittances. It's often the only way to preserve value month after month. Turkey saw 25.6% crypto ownership in 2026, driven by the lira's volatility. Nigeria hit 20% and Lebanon around 20% as well. People in these places aren't speculating. They're escaping debasement. It's literally their escape hatch. And the reason why I covered that and I also said check that financial privilege is what these people do in these countries is as soon as they get their money from a job or paycheck, they flip it into Bitcoin or USDT or a stable coin. Because their volatility is so crazy over a month or even a week or even by the end of the day, the way they can hold the value of their money is by exchanging it immediately, and then they send it around, send it home, or make their purchases like they need to, which is crazy. Imagine living like that. That's why we Bitcoin. Moving on, we're still talking about demand here. Companies treat Bitcoin as treasury reserves, digital savings that can't be inflated away. And before I get into it, I've said it many times before, I'm in favor of the individuals holding Bitcoin in cold storage. But remember, Bitcoin is for everyone. And before we mention MicroStrategy, I think they're a net positive for Bitcoin as a whole. Anyways, MicroStrategy, now called Strategy, they hold over 720,000 Bitcoin. And I think they just bought more today. I think it was like 3,012 Bitcoin. You know what? He keeps stacking because he knows what this is, right? I believe their Bitcoin is now worth over $47 billion, making it the largest corporate holder. They keep buying, as we know, because we know that Michael Saylor sees it as a better alternative to holding it as cash or putting it in the S&P 500 or just letting it sit there and lose value, especially for the shareholders. Japan's Metaplanet, they hold over 35,000 Bitcoin, worth almost $2.5 billion, and plans to reach 210,000 Bitcoin. And I really like that number, right? It's the halving number, which is awesome. You can tell their Bitcoin is there. They plan to hit that goal by 2027, and they publicly call it their core strategy against the yen's weakness. Like I was saying, all over the world, they're going to be printing money. If governments can print money, whether it's the yen, the dollar, the peso, they're going to print it. Institutions and ETFs, big institutions and ETFs have poured billions into Bitcoin because they finally have a true scarce digital asset and their clients are just clamoring for it. And like I said, Bitcoin is for the individual. I dropped a video as to why Bitcoin in cold storage is better than ETFs the other day. Last week. Anyway, so check that out if you want. US spot Bitcoin ETFs saw massive inflows in recent weeks. One single week in early 2026, they pulled in 1 billion. After that pullback, early in 2026, with BlackRock's IBIT alone taking in hundreds of millions weekly. Their year-to-date inflows fluctuate, and sometimes I see them selling, and I'm not really sure why. Tax harvesting, I'm not sure, but they are still in tens of billions of dollars worth of Bitcoins. Institutions are here, and they're treating Bitcoin like a digital gold for portfolios. Nation states, it's the most popular one that I'm sure we all know of. El Salvador, the first Bitcoin country. They hold over 6,200 Bitcoin, and they mine it with geothermal energy, like I had mentioned before, with volcanoes. Just when I love that. And moving on to the states, several states like Texas, New Hampshire, Arizona, and others have passed or are advancing laws for their own Bitcoin strategic reserves, and some of them even buying ETFs. Others exploring direct holdings, signaling governments are opting into scarcity instead of endless printing. Another one I want to mention is Bhutan. They mined all of their Bitcoin via hydro, the excess hydro during their rainy seasons, and now they're using that to build out their country. And they have amazing plans for an amazing airport. I love that they just did that with only the Bitcoin they mined. They didn't have to buy any, which is amazing. And moving on to the individual, everyday people using it for cheap, borderless payments. Companies like Western Union, which I absolutely hate, which used to take 10% of transactions, now cost pennies by a Lightning Network. And we're going to do a nice big episode in Lightning coming up. As of 2025, the Lightning Network's average transaction size hit $223, up from $118 the year before, just the year before, which is amazing. A monthly Lightning volume crossed $1.17 billion as of November 2025. And that, if you think Lightning has failed, I mean, just go look at the numbers for yourself. And I'm super excited to do that Lightning episode. It's going to be awesome. In places like Latin America and Africa, 61% of young crypto users, 18 to 34, rely on it for remittance purposes because it's fast, cheap, and doesn't get blocked by borders or banks or companies like Western Union taking 10% just because they want to support their family. It's just wild. As more demand flows in while new supply shrinks with every halving, the economics become self-reinforcing. It's like a flywheel that spins faster the longer it runs. Scarcity plus growing real-world use plus network effects equal a very strong case for long-term value preservation. And I like that. As always, this is for newcomers, and I'm sure newcomers have heard all of the FUD around Bitcoin. Let's clear up two of the most common ones you're probably going to hear. First, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. Gold doesn't have any intrinsic value either in the way people think. You can't eat gold or use most of it for industry. Its value comes from scarcity, durability, portability, and the fact that humans have collectively agreed it's valuable for thousands of years. Bitcoin has all of those properties plus digital superpowers, infinite divisibility, instant global transfers, perfect verifiability, and resistance to seizure. It is verifiable digital scarcity in a world where everything else digital can be copied infinitely. Right? Remember, we spoke about how in the white paper, Satoshi solved the double spend problem? That's what we're talking about there. Second, halvings are just hype cycles. Before I get into it, I know the last halving hasn't had the same performances as previously, but the halvings are still important. Remember, price doesn't matter. This channel is meant to build out your education so that you can hold through whatever you see out there because you believe in the fundamentals of Bitcoin. Halvings are predictable supply shocks. The price often rises in anticipation and after the event because everyone knows new supply is about to slow down dramatically. But the real driver isn't hype, it's adoption meeting scarcity. Bitcoin has already survived multiple death cycles and it keeps coming back stronger every single time. The economics are resilient, not fragile. And a few practical takeaways for the newcomers here. The next halving is expected around April 2028. That's one of the most predictable economic events in all of finance. No other asset on Earth has a supply schedule this transparent and unchangeable. You can literally set a reminder on your phone. If you're thinking long term, and especially if you're a parent or a saver, or someone tired of watching your money lose value, like not being able to buy as much even though you're making more, which is our case, understanding the schedule is powerful. It turns dips into potential buying opportunities instead of panic moments. Remember what I was saying in the last video? Use your education to turn these dips into generational buying opportunities. DCA over time, and you'll be impressed by how much your stack grows. Just stay with it. This is why Bitcoin's economics matter so much. In a world where central banks can print at will, dilute your savings, and hand the advantages to the already connected, Bitcoin supply and halving mechanisms offer a peaceful counterbalance, right? We're not going to take the power out of their hands by force. We're going to use a sly, roundabout way of doing it, and it's called Bitcoin. It protects purchasing power over decades, not years. It rewards patience and sovereignty instead of debt and proximity to power. That's a pretty powerful sentence right there. It gives you real hope that the money you earn today can still have value for your kids and grandkids. It's the whole reason why I started this channel. I wanted people, everyday people, to be able to opt out of this system and take that financial sovereignty in their own hands, the escape hatch. If any part of this episode resonated with you, or if you ever felt that quiet frustration of watching your savings melt or buy less even though you earn more in nominal values, then stick around, hit subscribe, let me know what you think. I'm going to be dropping these Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that's my commitment to you. Yeah, I read every single comment. Like I said before in the previous videos, let's build a community. I'm here for you. If you need help, if you have questions about Bitcoin, setting up a wallet, shoot me a message. I'm here for you, and there are many other great resources out there as well. I can point you in the right direction. And remember what I say, if anybody else is telling you to do anything other than putting your Bitcoin in cold storage, you're being misled. And before we end, I'm going to leave you with this. Bitcoin is a paradigm shift. Whether the old world wants to admit it or not, I'd rather stand on the side that holds verifiable control than on the side still waiting for permission to access what should be mine. What I traded my time and value and time away from my family for, that should be mine. I should have access to it whenever I want. Remember, you are the escape hatch. It's the whole reason why I named my channel that. The moment to recognize it isn't tomorrow, it's right now. Thank you so much. Seriously, thank you so much. If you're here and you're watching this, I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. I'm going to see you in the next one. It's going to be giant on Wednesday. The mining episode is going to drop, and that one is going to be awesome. There's a lot of stuff I've covered before that's going to be in there and some new stuff. I think mining is a very important part because it's one of the most misunderstood and easily attacked part of Bitcoin. Before I even understood a lot of what the mining did, I was already orange pilled. And when I learned more about the mining, it just kind of, deepen that knowledge. Make sure you're always learning. And like I said, thank you so much for being here. And as always, remember, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, make sure you send it to cold storage. Stay sovereign, friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.